Westchester Jewish Community Services. As a leading agency in providing a comprehensive spectrum of human services, we have been helping people since 1943. We serve all people in Westchester County, regardless of age, income, or ethnicity. We provide a wide variety of essential and dynamic services that make a difference in people's lives. Children, teens, adults, and senior citizens are served by our network of programs located throughout the county. When people come to us for assistance, they become part of the WJCS family. Our highly trained and skilled staff focus on you and your family and are committed to becoming your partner in finding solutions. For more than half a century, we have been connecting people to services that help them overcome mental, physical, or emotional challenges. WJCS is here in your community when you need us.
Welcome to the Ways We Care of Westchester Jewish Community Services. I'm Dale Wang, Director of Community Relations. WJCS is funded by UJA Federation, United Way, government grants, private individuals, foundations, and corporations. When a child experiences learning difficulties, there are often tremendous stresses placed both on the child and the family. In recent years, the pressures on school districts have also increased as state testing in critical grades impose deadlines and standards for reading and mathematical competency. Some school districts and individuals have turned to WJCS's Learning Center services, which have helped children and adults with learning difficulties for more than 30 years. These services have adapted and expanded to meet the changing needs of various communities and to employ new methods and technology to challenge and engage students. In addition, WJCS also offers families opportunities for support as they cope with the tensions that academic problems may bring socially and emotionally for children and their parents. Tonight we've invited some experts from the WJCS Learning Center and from a new program called Unique Minds, which is a family support program, to explain some of the efforts being made to help children and parents experience the pleasures of learning. I'd like to introduce to you Louise Albin, who is director of our Learning Center program and Off the Street. Welcome, Louise.
Thank you, Dale.
Welcome back, as always. And Betty Berenson, who is a therapist with Unique Minds and in our Hartsdale Clinic.
Hi,
Welcome, Betty. Thank you for joining us. In the second half of the program, we will also look at an interesting multimedia program that's being done in the Peekskill schools. Louise, for those who haven't seen us talk about this before, let's get a background on our Learning Center. What is the scope of services that are offered, and what do we do for children who have learning difficulties?
Okay, the Learning Center offers its services throughout Westchester County at all of WJCS's mental health clinics and also in a non-clinic setting in Mount Kisco. What we do is provide consultation for parents who have questions about the way their children are functioning in school, or for adults who have questions about their own functioning. If these are people who want supportive help, we evaluate them. The evaluation includes a clinical evaluation, a psychological testing, and the psychoeducational testing. And at the end of that, all of the professionals who have tested the child or the adult meet together with the person and share the results of the testing and make suggestions and recommendations. If one of those recommendations is for remedial or supportive tutoring services, then the agency is prepared to supply those services. Most of the all of the testing is done in our offices. Most of the tutoring is done in our offices, but there are certain school districts in the county where we are invited into the schools to provide tutoring. So we provide tutoring in the Mount Vernon school system to elementary children. We also are in the schools in Peekskill where we're providing tutorial services, and we have an after-school program in Yonkers where we provide tutorial services after school. That's basically what we do.
Right. So these are really the kinds of programs that can help parents whose children are struggling in school. They don't know if they have attention deficit disorders. They don't know what the nature of the learning problem is, and it helps the family to assess and to figure out where they should be going with their child.
We work both with children whom the school have recommended to us or to the agency, and frequently parents want an outside opinion because either the schools are so busy that they don't have time to do the evaluations as quickly as the family would like, or sometimes the families don't agree with what the school professionals have said and they want an outside opinion. Frequently our findings are the same as the school, but sometimes people feel better with getting that second opinion. So we're also equipped to do that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, new directives from the state have put increased focus on school districts that have children who are at risk and children who are having learning difficulties and aren't performing at grade levels. And these districts have sometimes now been looking for corporate support and for putting programs like ours into their schools to start addressing some of these issues. Could you tell us about the Reading is Fundamental program in Mount Vernon that's beginning to address some of the challenges that some of their children are having?
Certainly. The Mount Vernon School District asked us to collaborate with them this year under a Reading is Fundamental Coca-Cola Ingenuity grant to do what we call an interactive family literacy program. And family literacy has three basic components to it. One is to enhance and promote children's reading. One is to enhance the adults in the family's reading ability. And the third is the interactive piece where parent and child are provided with literacy activities that they can enjoy together. And we are doing all three in the Mount Vernon school system this year in 3 different elementary schools.
Mm-hmm. So the school district got the grant, and we are collaborating with them on implementing it.
That's right.
Okay. And talk a little bit about the structure of this. How is it going to work in the 3 schools, and what are we actually providing?
Well, one of the schools has a after-school program called Off the Street that WJCS has been running for 7 years. And this program trains Mount Vernon high school students to be tutors and mentors, and with adult supervision, they work with the children from the Hamilton Elementary School. In this program, we this year are adding to our tutoring and our mentoring by doing activities designed with the Reading is Fundamental text that we have, and that enhance what we're doing in the interactive family literacy program. The school itself also, in its reading programs, that works with the Reading is Fundamental program and using their materials. The interactive piece that we're doing in 3 different schools, Hamilton, Longfellow, and Thornton, consists of 10 interactive sessions of an hour and a half each in the evening with a set of up to 30 families and their children. The children have to be in 1st through 4th grades, and they have to be children who the school feels can benefit from enhanced literacy training. We've started the first school. We're almost more than halfway through the first school, which is Hamilton, and the sessions have been very exciting in terms of the parents and the children's enjoying of it. We've just begun the second school series, Longfellow, and then we have 2 more to do in the second half of the year.
Now, when you select, when these children are selected, or the families are selected, is that done by the school, or are you involved in the process?
It's done by the school. We help the school establish the criteria for selecting the parents, but basically the principals, each principal has had his or her own system of picking the families that they thought would benefit from it.
Can you give a little insight into what the demographics are of the group that has come together, let's say, for Hamilton
Well,
School,
in
which is-
Hamilton School, we've had about 16 families that have come regularly to the sessions. Basically, we have mothers, but sometimes when the mothers can't come, the fathers come. I would say about a third of the population are Latinos, and one of the three, we have 3 trainers working with the families with their children, and one of the 3 trainers is a woman who's fluent in Spanish, so that there's a lot going on. She helps them with those pieces of the books that they don't understand in English, and is just a serves as a translator and a facilitator for them. And the other 2 people are people who've worked for the Learning Center programs, and they provide activities. And these parents have been so responsive that the chief facilitator said to me the other day, she just gives them one idea and they're off and they're flying, and they're really enjoying themselves.
Well, it must be wonderful to see the enthusiasm from
It
a
has
group like
been,
that.
and the parents have organized, the last session before Thanksgiving is next Wednesday, and the parents have organized the Thanksgiving feast, and this all came spontaneously out of the group. And the children, many of them who go to our after school program and finish at 4:45, are excited to come back at 5:30. So it says to us that the program is doing something right, because the children are enjoying it.
And we'll have the opportunity to see that group later on in this program.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about the educational level of the parents and how you address the literacy competencies of parents.
What we did was, in the first session we had a questionnaire that we had put together with the help of Fordham University. The other partner in the grant is Fordham University, and it's their job to do evaluation of the program, to prove to the funders afterwards that the program has done what it said it would do. So they helped us put together this form, and the parents filled it out, and we asked things like educational level and where they went to school and what they want for themselves and what their goals are for their children. The person who's doing the adult literacy training has gone to each of the interactive family literacy sessions to get to know the parents so that they can get to know her. And she has talked to them all and has begun to have some parents who have been willing to say, yeah, I do want stuff for myself. And so they've set goals, and they're now beginning with those sessions. And she will be doing that at each of the different schools, so that the parents will be able to, based on what they've shared with us in their initial form, and then what she learns from them and how she observes them working with the children, pick goals. And the goals they can pick for themselves can be as simple as wanting to read to their children better, to help their children homework, or to get a GED, or some other more sophisticated kind of learning. We're prepared to do any of that.
Right, and the Learning Center has experience working with adults, so they could certainly feed into some of our programs.
We
as
do
well.
have a long-established program in Hartsdale that runs in the Hartsdale office of working with adults with all different levels of learning problems.
Okay, we'll come back in a little while to go over the curriculum in this program, but I want to give Betty a chance to talk about Unique Minds, because when children have learning disabilities and learning difficulties, it's not always addressed as readily as it is in some of these schools, where the school districts are committed to bringing in a special program, and parents and children often struggle with how to get through these difficult times. Tell us a little bit about what the model for Unique Minds is and what its goals are.
Well, Unique Minds was developed at the Ackerman Institute in New York, and it is being offered, it has been for a few years now, offered in some city schools and at Ackerman itself. So we're now bringing it to Westchester. You're right, Dale, learning disabilities pervade every aspect of a child's life. It includes the school, which is Louise's program is responding to that with the tutoring. Family life, the social lives of the kids, siblings, extended family. And this is a really wonderful group that touches all aspects of a child's life. And it's based on a skills model. It's based on Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences, which tells us that although we need to look at each child's testing and what each child needs in terms of extra help, we also want to know what are this child's strengths. And we make sure that each family is aware and knows and offers opportunities for each child's strengths. We also want to respond to the psychological impacts of having a learning disability. So that this group is a multiple family group with the learning disabled child in it, and they kind of move back and forth. The parents have their own support group, the children have their support group, and they communicate to each other at various parts of this group.
Now, does it work parallel? Do they interact together during the sessions? The structure is how many sessions?
The structure is 8 sessions, and it's 4 to 6 families. And what happens is that the children have their own group and the parents have their own group, and they come in and out. At one point, the kids put on a puppet show for the parents. At one point, the parents put on a play for the kids, so that parents are gaining an understanding of what the psychological impact is on the children of having a learning disability and feeling different. And the kids are also understanding what happens to parents when they lose their tempers, how they're feeling, and we're helping them not incorporate it into their sense of self. We're kind of externalizing some of these things for parents to kind of say, I made a mistake when I yelled at you. That wasn't really me. And when the
grappling with the frustrations that people feel.
They are really grappling with frustrations. And this group, one of the things the group does is attempt to externalize that and not make it part of the child's identity or the parent's identity, and have them be able to separate their feelings for each other from some of the behavioral impacts of having a learning disability.
You had described this as a family life education group. What is the distinction between that and a therapeutic session?
The results of this group are therapeutic, but I look at this as a family life education model, having children understand what their frustrations are for parents and vice versa, so that it's not a psychoanalytically oriented, it's not a therapeutically oriented group. It's really a communication and also an educational model, having everyone understand what it's like to feel so different. And also to be supported by other people.
Right.
So it's a very supportive group. Parents are supported by other parents. They gain information from each other. And children also hear from other children who are experiencing the same kinds of things.
You had mentioned the word normalization, and I guess that's really key, because when they see that there are other children grappling with the same issues, it makes them feel more comfortable.
Yeah, the words that we use are normalization, so that you're not feeling so different. And demystifying a learning disability. Sometimes one of the things that Louise's program does is that the testing is really explained to the families. Well, some families don't have that experience, and the testing is something that they don't understand, the results of the testing. So we like to say that we demystify it for them.
One of the things Betty's group can do, and one of the things we do, is not only demystify for the parents, but for the children.
Absolutely.
Because very, very often, first of all, it's like when you go to a doctor's office and they tell you some bad news. When you're so stunned that you close your mind and you don't hear it all. So then you walk out and you don't remember. So anybody needs to hear something that's not exactly what they want to hear more than once. And children need to hear it again and again and again. And that's why your group can do a wonderful job of explaining it and normalizing it within the framework of the group.
You deal with children who are in 3rd and 4th grade, 9 to 11 years old. Why do you target that age level?
Well, we found that statistically that is a time when there are a large number of children who are diagnosed. Another time is the beginning of high school. But generally in 3rd grade, where school becomes more serious, there are more demands. There are kids who are noted to be having difficulties, and much of the testing occurs at that age, between 9 and 11. So that is the group that we want to respond to before they live too long with whatever fears they're incorporating about this. So we want to get to them kind of early and offer this when they're struggling.
Uh-huh. And I'm sure that it helps people to understand and to advocate for themselves as they go forward in the school system.
It is a big part of this group. Talking with parents about advocating, often we find that parents in schools are in adversarial positions. So that a large part of this group is talking in the parents group about advocating for the kids. And not getting into a terrible adversarial position with the school, and also teaching the kids to be their own advocates. For a child to understand what exactly is his learning problem and to be able to communicate it to teachers, which is going to have to do
throughout
all
the
of his school life.
Right, or until that problem is addressed and the child is able to move along successfully.
Absolutely.
You are planning to run this group in the early spring, late winter?
You know, we're getting phone calls now, and it's going to depend on what families tell us.
Right.
So far, we have people who would be prepared to start now. We want to get a few more families.
Okay, and if there are people out there who are interested, how do they get in touch with you?
They can call the Hartsdale office,
Which is?
which is on Central Avenue, and it's at 949-7699 at extension 362.
Okay, 362. Well, thank you, Betty. Louise, let's get back, and we're going to be looking at this tape of the Interactive Family Literacy Program. We have 2 minutes. Just give me a summary of what that curriculum is like and where these people have gotten to at the end of this session.
Okay, well, in the first 2 sessions were done with the parents without the children, and during that those 2 sessions, the Julie, who is the head trainer, was helping them to think about literacy as something that encompasses all aspects of life. So it's not just sitting down and reading that book, Unique Minds. It's a question of being able to read a can on a grocery store shelf, being able to read a TV commercial if the sound is turned down, all of the many different aspects of reading, labeling, using words, using language. And so she spent a lot of time doing that, playing games that the parents could then take home and play with their children. And once the children started coming, they would read a book each time. They'd discuss the theme of the book, and then sometimes there was an art project that she would do, or there was an assignment where they had to do a map of their room and bring it back. They had to write certain things another time, so that what they're doing is enjoying the books, reading the books together. And for many of these children, they've verbalized that this is wonderful because they're doing something with books with their parents. And so for these particular kids, for many it's the first time, and the parents are being reinforced with what they can do. They see that their children enjoy it. And they've even been taught that you can make your own book by just looking at the pictures. So they're learning all different kinds of literacy-based activities and ways of having fun with their children. And some of the parents have asked for the literacy sessions in which they can do more of this, where they can learn how to help their kids with their homework, because they're all incredibly invested, just like every parent is, in wanting their children to succeed and wanting their children to do better in school. And it's really been very exciting to feel that we're a part of helping them to get what they want.
Right. Well, these 2 programs certainly mesh in terms of helping parents and children to understand the importance of learning and to really enjoy and engage in it together. We're going to take some time now to take a look at the Interactive Literacy Program, and we will come back in our second half to look at another unique program being offered in the Peekskill School District. Thank you for viewing, and stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Julie Stieglitz, the facilitator of the Family Literacy Program, which we've been running for about 8 weeks now at Hamilton School. And behind me are some of examples of the activities we did connected with some of the books that we've read. They get to sit in groups or individually with their children and use the literacy materials provided through the Mount Vernon Board of Ed, particularly the Arthur stories. And through that, along the lines of a theme, they create some of these projects, which involve comprehension, where they think about ideas and then they create a webbing activity that they've done through a mobile. They did that a couple of different ways. They've drawn pictures and written about them. They've had lots of discussions. The parents themselves in the introductory session got to read their own story about finding 5 minutes peace, and then made their examples of what makes a perfect parent, and they're very proud of those. And today, because we've been together for 8 sessions, they've elected to have a Thanksgiving feast. And with our Thanksgiving feast, we're also focusing on literacy, and we have several Thanksgiving stories, and they'll hear a story, and then they'll read together at their tables and talk about different things that they could be thankful for. And every once in a while, they have homework, and one of their homeworks will be to think about the things and talk about what they're thankful for. Also tonight, some of the things that you'll see are hopefully examples of what the parents have done with their children at home, using some of the ideas that were presented to them through the literacy program.
How you doing? I'm Larry McDowell, and I'm here at Hamilton After School Program. This is Taji, Diamond, and Ranisha. These are my beautiful children. And I bring them here to get more education and more learning. I like for them to know how to read for the future, because reading is fundamental. And with the program that I go to, after school program here, I see a lot of progress in my children here. And there should be more programs like this in different schools, in different areas, a lot of leisure skills of reading for the children. I believe it's a good thing for parents to get involved with.
We want to thank God for blessing us to come together. We thank God for this beautiful, beautiful program that has been so successful. And we want to thank God for life, health, and strength. Happy Thanksgiving!
Thanks for coming. Bye.
Welcome back to the Ways We Care of Westchester Jewish Community Services. I'm Dale Wang, Director of Community Relations. WJCS is funded by UJA Federation, United Way, government grants, private individuals, foundations, and corporations. Tonight we've been talking about the WJCS Learning Center services and a program called Unique Minds. And in this half, we're going to have a little bit of insight into a new program that is being offered with a special grant from the McKinney Foundation and private support from a WJCS benefactor that has enabled a pilot project with new technology at the Hillcrest School in Peekskill. But before we get to that program, we're going to have a little review of our Learning Center services and some of the new things that are going on. So our participants in this half are Louise Albin, who's Director of our Learning Center services.
Hi, Dale.
Hi, welcome back. And Joanne Steiner, who is a learning specialist at the Hillcrest School in Peekskill. Welcome, Joanne.
Hi, Dale.
And Barbara Stern, who is Supervisor of WJCS Learning Services in Northern Westchester. Welcome,
Hello,
Barbara. Louise, we did speak in the first half a little bit about the Learning Center services, but give us a quick overview for those who missed the first half.
Okay, very briefly, the Learning Center Services is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, special program of WJCS, and it's been in existence now for about 36 years. Basically, what we do is we offer services to children and adults who have learning problems. And we offer consultations, we offer testing that includes both psychological, psychoeducational services, explanation of it. We offer making sure that both parents and children understand what it is that's been troubling them in learning and how they can deal with it. And then we offer remediation, and sometimes the remediation is, usually the remediation is one-to-one for children, But with adults, we usually have small groups. And with the new program that we're going to talk about in Peak School, we're doing basically small group remediation using both our traditional methods and computers.
Well, and I'm going to give a little testimonial, because as a parent who used the Learning Center services, I have to say it's not only for young children. I used it myself for my teenage child, and it really turned around his educational experience from that time in high school on. So I think that people should know that it's for all ages of the spectrum, and that the testing and the recommendations really can work.
Thank you. One of the things that I hadn't mentioned that your comment now just reminded me of is that we are able, as a result of our testing, to write to the college boards or to the LSATs or the GED and get modifications for people so that they can take the tests untimed, more timed, time and a half, using a calculator if there's a math problem. For the GED, we've even had people using scribes because they had a problem with the motoric part of writing. And so those modifications are certainly for children, not children, but adolescents and adults.
Okay, and now recently there was a new federal mandate called the No Child Left Behind Act. And I think that parents in schools now are grappling with how they can access additional services to put their children on track. Could you explain what this is and what it means for parents?
Certainly. It's a very complicated act, the No Child Left Behind Act. And basically what it says is that if a school district has a certain percentage of its children at any grade level functioning below, well below grade level or below grade level, and they're considered a, in quotes, failing school. And if a school, after the first year of failing, they're supposed to change their curriculum, change their programs, and make modifications. And if they, after a second year, are failing, then the school is required to provide supplemental educational services, which roughly translates into after-school tutoring by people other than the school district. And they're required to provide these services to any child in a failing school who is also not doing well. And the New York State this summer sent out a request for proposals and asked community organizations, private organizations, school-based, any organization, to apply to be a supplemental provider. And so the WJCS Learning Center did that. It was a very rigorous application, and you had to document that you've had a lot of experience and success in working with children who have had difficulty in learning. And we were accepted as a supplemental provider of educational services. So that means that in any district that has a school that's failing, the school is required to give our name as well as that of all the other organizations that were accepted. And the school district has to pay us out of Title I funds.
And so the parents are able to access those supports on their own with funding from the federal government.
With funding from the federal government, but it's the school system that's actually paying. And New York State has created a series of very rigorous requirements in terms of what the provider of services has to do to maintain standards, and the school district has standards. So we're very happy to have been chosen as one, and it's just beginning to start to be implemented now, because it all happened this summer.
Okay, all right, well, that's great, and I hope that parents who are struggling with those issues, who hear about that, will get in touch with you, and we'll give the number at the end of the program. Let's talk a little bit about this multimedia program and what's going on at the Hillcrest School. Whoever wants to start is fine with me.
Well, I think we were very excited this year to be invited into the Hillcrest School with a multimedia program. We've worked with Hillcrest in the past, but in a one-to-one capacity. This is bringing rather new technology and different way of learning to the students who are selected for the program to meet with Joanne during their lunch hour in small group instruction.
So this is a program that was actually brought to the school. It's funded by a McKinney grant, and that has a special population attached to it. It's homeless.
Yes. The McKinney grant is targeted for children who are living in a homeless situation to provide for them more instructional one-on-one or individual time in order to enable them to build their skills, and not only their skills, their confidence and trust in learning.
So we've had this kind of program in place at the Hillcrest School previously.
Yes, we had the program in place. In fact, Joanne was the instructor last year for the program, and the students certainly became very attached to her.
And this year, with additional private funding, we've added this multimedia piece. And I guess you guys have had experience with the multimedia program before. Let's talk a little bit about what that involves, what it brings to a learning session that is different than the traditional learning that we've been doing.
Multimedia is a very exciting program that builds language skills, builds teamwork, builds written expression, verbal expression, and through the use of not only computer, but similar to what I've brought here, what we call a workstation and manipulatives. So it's a non-threatening way of learning and very different from classroom learning, but what we're finding is the students are becoming very excited by it, and in today's world, not only is it helping them with their language building and their working together, but it's helping them in that area of attention that we hear so much about in terms of focusing.
And one other thing that I've found it to be very successful with is helping students, and particularly at the Hillcrest School where the students are 5th and 6th graders, and it's time that they started thinking about how they learn and how best to study. Many of the activities that we do really helps them to think about what they're doing and why they're doing it, and is there another way to do it, and if Joanne is doing something differently than I, can I incorporate some of her strategies and can she incorporate some of mine? So it makes you more conscious of how you learn and what you need to do to learn in a way that, as Barbara said, is unthreatening, unchallenging, and it's not the same as reading in a textbook.
Joanne, you've been the teacher. So you had a group like this last year. Describe what your how it functions within the school and how you draw the group and what an average day might be like.
Well, I have 3 sessions during the lunch period. The normal session lasts 35 to 40 minutes, and the children come in small groups. And the interesting piece, as Louise and Barbara are speaking about teamwork and collaboration, is last year I realized there was such a need for the children to work together aside from the one-on-one tutorial attention, that now they're working together and they don't even realize that they're collaborating and working with the other students. The main piece is they are learning how to listen to each other. They're listening, they're following directions. You need to be specific in the program. As the piece Barbara has here today, before you can start working on the manipulatives in this particular mat, the children must say to each other where it's going to be located, the size of a particular piece, the shape of it, the color of it. So they are always on target now, listening to one another. And this is a new experience for some of them.
Now, you said what's the age group of the children involved?
These are 5th and 6th graders.
5th and 6th graders.
Yes.
Now, how does, we'll get to the mat in a minute, and I'd like to see how it works, but how does this relate to the academic competencies that they may need to have? obviously these are students, if they are recommended for the program, they're at risk in terms of learning in the schools. How does this relate to their educational progress?
This is interesting because many of the programs have reading, so there's reading comprehension involved. Also, the directional piece is very important for them, so that also helps them with math. There's spelling involved. So as they see some of the written language on the screen, sometimes we take a step back and they're spelling the words. So I see it really covering many areas of the academic arena.
Mm-hmm. And how far below grade level are many of these students? What are you grappling with there in terms of
Some
their
of them
abilities?
are very low level and at least 2 or 3 grade levels behind.
Mm-hmm.
So they get the individual attention to work on some of these issues and build some of the skills they need.
Mm-hmm.
Dale, most of the students were selected because they scored in the lower 25th percentile on that famous 4th grade test called the ELA.
Uh-huh.
So these are students who've had difficulty in language-based activities, and what we're doing is giving them a different approach to learning about language and utilizing language.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's a computer or 2 computers involved,
Mm-hmm.
and then they use the mats in relation to the computers, or is it 2 separate activities? How does it work?
No, it's all together.
All right, let me hear how it works.
It's all together, actually. They use the mats collaboratively with the computers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very, very important for eye-hand coordination. And there are times whereby we walk away from the computer screen and use the mat alone. As I did today, I had 2 teams working across the room from each other, and they could not look at each other, so they were back to back. And at one side of the room, the children had to give instructions, and at the other side of the room, the other group had to listen to the instructions and follow the instructions on the mat.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes very competitive. It's a very quiet experience, and at the end, they exchange the project.
Mm-hmm. Barbara, you want to give us a demonstration of how it might work and what you might teach through
Sure.
one of these activities?
Well, I might say to you, Dale, take the large red square and place it in the lower left square touching the upper median line. Well, that's a lot of instructions, isn't it? So it's how you're going to place it, and many are trying to process that in a manner that you can find it here, you can find it here because that's the first square, you can find it here, you can even find it up here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's finding and also these squares have many attributes. So we're looking for the large red square to touch the median line in the lower left-hand square. Then on top of that, we might say, okay, now take the large orange circle and place it on top of the red square. Well, it can be placed this way, it can be placed this way, it can be placed many different ways. It can even be a different size circle. Mm-hmm. So again, it's always surprising and fun to receive the instructions and then to go and look and see, oh my goodness, what did the student do? So we learn to think about how we utilize language and how clear are we in giving instructions and how clear are we in receiving instructions.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very much the essence of language, communication.
Now, this obviously doesn't address basic skills. Is there some component of this program that has, it's basic in terms of communication, but is there another component of it, or that's not part of this program? Is there another component that actually addresses academic deficits?
Well, it does. Even this component does. Because summer before last, Barbara and I, when we were learning the program, we're working with a language impaired, and Joanne was there too, a language impaired kid. And he really couldn't organize his language to say, because normally when we talk about attributes of something, you say the size first, then you say the color, and then you say the name of the shape. So we say medium, blue, square. Okay, this kid could not get that out that way. And he'd say square, and then it would come blue, and then little. And so within a couple of weeks, using this and having him, he wrote it down, and he wrote it down. Joanne made wonderful charts, and he would write. One column said, the first column said shape, size, and then color, and then shape, and he wrote it in. And so by the end of a week or so, he was saying it correctly. Now, this kid couldn't have organized himself. So that's an attribute that underlies a lot of academic skills. And there are great exercises for memory, for paying attention auditorily, for paying attention visually, for organizing, and as Joanne said, there are exercises for reading with the computer, spelling with the computer, writing with the computer. There's a blank a sentence like, I'm going, and you can say to the student, put in 3 words, say where you're going. And then you say, oh, I forgot to tell you, put in a color word. So this kid has to figure out where in that sentence he could stick the word green or blue in. And so he learns that adjectives modify a noun, and it has to go before the noun. And so this is a writing program. So they're all different levels. For math, there's a room, and you can furnish a kitchen. So you can say, all right, pick 7 things that you want to put in your kitchen, and you have to place it in the kitchen. Then you can say, okay, now do the math. Let's find out how much does this cost. You have a budget of $5,000, and if your refrigerator costs this, that, and you plan it. So you have math. It's very adaptable, and it's very creative, and it gives the teacher a wide range of going in many directions for both the underlying cognitive skills like attention and memory and language, and then for the academic skills on top of it.
And I think, Dale, many times what we attribute to the academic skills are not necessarily not knowing your letters or your sounds. But what we're finding is that because this focuses the child, as Louisa said, on how they learn, there becomes the aha to the learning. And suddenly new worlds are opening up. It's not threatening any longer. It's not a piece of paper with words on it. They can now pay attention to it and pick up and feel in charge of their learning, which maybe so many of them haven't felt in the past.
I think that's very critical in terms of what you're saying, that there are so many learning differences among children, and certainly some don't do well on paper and pencil tests. This can give a different dimension to understanding how someone learns.
Right.
How does it translate back into the classroom?
I knew you were going to ask that.
That's the hard question, right?
And that's a question, that's a very good question, because that's a question we have been asked so many times by principals, teachers, parents. You know, gee, this looks like a lot of fun, but, you know, today we have lots of tests in school, and we have to be concerned on how the student does. Well, it does translate back into the students, into the classroom, because I think you find a different student going back into the classroom. You find a more enthused student going back into the classroom, and a student who is paying attention and has developed new tools that didn't look like classroom learning, but suddenly they want to put it into their classroom learning.
And to piggyback on that, if I may, it develops tremendous confidence in the children. And I watched that today. I asked a couple of students, you know, how they found the program was working for them today. And the response was teamwork, sequencing, one child was able to say, which is a very new word for these children.
That's a
They've
big word,
just
right?
learned it recently. And friendship, they said, and also listening. So that's a lot in a very short time.
Joanne, you have different level kids who come in at the same time, or and how do you accommodate the different levels?
Thank you, Till.
She's much appreciated for her skill.
Right, I'm sure.
Number one is the children are also learning from each other. So we're trying to accommodate on a one-on-one also while they're working in small groups. It's teaching them how to respect the needs of other students. So you really sometimes stay in the background a little bit and be patient and watch the children work out some of the issues together. And one thing is they must be respectful of each other, and they're also becoming very aware of the needs of each other. And I think this is all very, very important for the learning process.
Mm-hmm. Is there a special challenge to dealing with children who live in homeless situations?
I think there's a tremendous challenge. First of all, they're very gifted, strong children, some of them. They're learning how to share. They're also very respectful of the fact that there's a new adult in their life who's very caring of them. Mm-hmm. And they're delightful. I love them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now I just want to be able to give you the opportunity, if other school districts are interested in this, how do they get in touch with you about it, Louise? What's the process?
Well,
here?
I think if there were a school district interested, they certainly can give me a call in the Hartsdale office. The number is 949-7699, extension 364, and I'd be happy to discuss it with them. One of the things we're doing with this program this year is that Joanne and Barbara have done some brief screening of the kids prior to beginning the teaching experience, and then we're going to do some brief screening at the end and compare it really to our results from other years, because we want to see whether the difference of combining this multimedia program with the regular tutoring that we do can make more of a difference for the children. Mm-hmm. And so right now we have impressions, and they're good ones, but certainly by the end of the year we'll have some, on 36 children, we'll have some test data too. Mm-hmm. And we're looking forward to that, because I think all of us working with it have found it to be a very exciting program to work with.
So the investment from a school district's perspective is providing the space and providing some support for the technology.
Well, I think if a school district were interested, we'd have to work with the school district, to find the support for the technology, but also to find the support for the program, because it's costing, WJCS is very lucky to not only have had money from the McKinney funding that the Peekskill School District has provided, but the bulk of the funding for the program has come from the private foundation. And what we would want to do is to find other private foundations that, when they see a successful program with data, would be willing to fund it, because we really feel it can make a difference for kids in school.
Right, right. We have one more minute, and I want to thank you, because I think this is a very exciting way to bring new technology into traditional learning situations and to really expand the options for children who are struggling with learning. Louise, you had someone coming to do a book signing on December 3rd. You had mentioned something about that. And
that's
maybe we could throw
December
that in.
3rd in Mount Vernon, and that's part of the interactive literacy program, and the school district has invited a Mount Vernon author of children's books, and they're coming on December 3rd to the Hamilton School, and they're going to be signing the books for the children and parents who are participating in our interactive family literacy program. So we're very excited about that too.
And that must be a very special opportunity for children to feel that they can really get close to an author who came from their community and is writing books that they are handling and looking at.
That's right, and for the parents too, and for the children to be at an event that says books are important and we all like them. It's a great thing. And
well, the Learning Center and all of its services are really expanding and doing incredible things, and I thank you all for what you are doing. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, it's
949-7699, extension 364.
Okay, and thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, Dale.
Joanne.
Thank you, Dale.
Louise.
Thank you very much, Dale.
And if anyone has any questions about any of our WJCS learning services, please give us a call. We hope that you have enjoyed our program, and we'll see you next week.